Today, we are going to be featuring the one and only Clement Sir Coxsone Dodd, Order of Distinction, and the man whose name is inextricably tied to the development of Jamaican music. Today also we're going to be joined by the one and only Dr. Dennis O. Howard, Jamaica's foremost ethnomusicologist, and he will be here with us as we take you on this wonderful ride. Garth, your comments?
Yeah, I just want to wish everyone, happy Merry Christmas. I know, previous still. Just welcome to Sunday Scoops today, Sunday. And we have a wonderful lineup for you. We'll be playing a lot of different artists. For those of you who don't know, Clement Seymour Dodd was born in Kingston on January 26, 1932. He is started out primarily as a sound system operator. Man had up to 5 sounds at one time running. And one for every day of the week. And one of the biggest producers to ever come out of Jamaica. And every single, that's one of the reasons why his music is called Foundation.
Absolutely.
A lot of people, once they hear Rocksteady, they say studio. And he has also created a domestic name, Studio One. The biggest gun for Rocksteady was Duke Reid, but nowadays, whenever everybody play Rocksteady, instead of play Studio One. But the Studio One sound is much different, and he is, again, big bad. Sir Coxsone Dodd.
Well, listen, we have Dr. Dennis Howard on the line, but before we bring in the erstwhile Dr. Dr. Howard,
some music.
We want to just give you a little taste of some of that early foundation music coming from Studio One.
A little taste. When they go and get them a whole entree, a good meal. So here is one of the biggest tune called Schooling the Duke. Well, as Richie promised you a taste, and that was a taste of Schooling the Duke.
Just a little sip.
The horns you hear in the background was that of none other than the big bad Don Drummond and the Scatterlights. Or at the time, this particular recording is his Greenlanders on the album Don Cosmic.
You see, when we touch the big guns, we have to bring out the biggest guns as well. Even Garth went on his studies to brush up on his background.
Yes, and to make sure we do the right thing.
But on the line, joining us from the great place called Kingston, Jamaica, the sound, the birthplace of this fabulous music is none other than Dr. Dennis Howard. Doc, how are you this morning? Or this afternoon?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I'm great. We
couldn't do a show like this. Well, you would never forgive us.
I'm happy to be here as usual.
There you go. Thank you.
Did he bring his dad with him this time?
Garth is asking if your dad is with him, but I'm trying to tell him we want to save your dad, man, for the big show on the sound system, right? So you have to think. But Doc, Studio One and Clement Dodd, we would never dare to do a show like this without your input as a man who in the thing. Your thoughts on Clement Dodd?
Well, I was fortunate to know the man and had many conversations with him because my father and Clement, Mr. Dodd, were good friends. And at some point, the music business in terms of distribution and retail, I should say. And so I had the privilege of being in the studio at different points I'd say probably in the 80s, starting in the 80s. And even after he came back, after that sojourn in New York, and so I had a number of conversations with him, and I've heard, I've witnessed and heard songs that are still not released.
Backwards and forward anecdotes. So we want to pick up, just how Coxsone came into the business. But before we do that, we're gonna do take another quick taste of another piece of early Studio One Eastern Standard Time. Again, from the catalog of the great Scatterlights, who we will discuss as we get further down in the program, the role that the Scatterlights played as far as being a studio band for the erstwhile Clement Dodd and the Studio One group. Let's give a listen to Eastern Standard Time.
And that was Eastern Standard Time again, Don Drummond and the Scatterlights.
The big trombone that you hear in the back in that music arrangement is the great
Don Drummond.
Don Drummond.
And a quick note on Don Drummond. He is known by peer review, not us, not our opinion, not the opinion of anybody else, but his peers, as one of the greatest trombonists to ever walk this planet.
Absolutely. In fact, we will address that. Yes, coming back.
One of the Marcellus brothers, I think I can't remember.
Vinton Marcellus.
He's the one who played. He plays trombone.
Right.
Well, he's one of the biggest fans for Don Drummond, and thinks that Don Drummond is one of the greatest trombonists ever. I think it's Delfeo Marcellus.
Yeah.
That's the name of, you know.
Well,
and
Doc Coxsone came into the business, a young boy, Kingston-born youth, used to play music down at his mother's restaurant.
And liquor store.
Liquor store.
And she had a liquor restaurant and liquor store. And he liked the music from the early days, a young teenager, and would from time to time go down there, particularly on a weekend, and play his blues and jazz, which would have been what we were listening to at the time.
Yeah.
And
well, before he even started to play, you know, remember how the sound system thing came out. His mother, who was the business person who had the restaurant and liquor store. What they used to do is to use one of those shortwave radios and hook it up to a speaker.
Right.
And that was almost like a PA system. And then as the sound system kind of movement emerged, that was when he started to play music at the premises. So it was basically first just about playing music, because music was a big part of the ordinary Jamaican.
And from a business standpoint, Doc, that's how they use the music to pull the crowd into the restaurant, right, and into the business place. I think the place was called Nanny's Corner, Beeston and Last Street.
Yeah, man,
Nanny's Corner, right?
Yeah.
And
the name is of his mother.
Right. So she.
Where's the Beeston Street and when?
I think it's Beeston and Love Lane. Beeston Street and Love Lane.
Yeah, Love Lane.
Love Lane, right? And what happened is, what people don't know. My research tells me that Coxsone would, from time to time, go over to Duke Reid's place and play on Duke Reid's sound, because they were family friends. And so Duke Reid was the one who actually introduced him to the big sound system. And, so he got a chance to exercise his selections. Those days we listened to a Sarah Vaughan and a Gloria Lynn, Billie Holiday, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And primarily back in the days, remember, most of that stuff was on 70 RPM.
Right.
Lacquer record, because the 45 was not popularized.
In vogue,
78 RPM.
Right.
Yeah, 78 RPM. So, and then the thing is, remember, a lot of people don't understand that during them times, it was the Jamaican palette was all about jazz. it was all about middle of the road pop, and it was all about the blues and the jump blues and the boogie woogie that
rock and roll.
that's popular. Not even rock and roll.
Rock and roll came a little later. Right.
Yeah, later. So it was, and a lot of people don't remember that there were jazz aficionados in these days. So you had people like Coxsone. I'm not sure if Euclid was a jazz man.
He was a jazz man. Yes, man. He was a big jazz man too.
Yeah. And they have Roy White, who was another jazz man. And you had people in that area. You had the first person who had a record store on Orange Street. He was another jazz man. So you had these jazz and aficionados who wanted to play the music and was into jazz and knew what was happening with all of these big jazz greats like, Dizzy Gillespie,
Ellington.
You name them. Ellington.
Yeah.
And people like Max Roach and of course the great can't forget him. I won't forget his name. The trumpeter. Don't tell him, man. But people like Coltrane,
John Coltrane. Yes.
Yeah. And so that's the foundation of it.
In fact,
a lot of people.
In fact, we produced a guy, Vinton, what was his name? Oh my, there's a Jamaican jazz musician that came out of that 1940s period, and I cannot remember his name. Went to New York.
Like Bertie King.
Right.
People like Bertie King.
But we could spend the whole day on this side of the thing. The reality, though, is that this introduced Coxsone. Coxsone also was fortunate enough that during the time, the Jamaican farmer program, which not like now, where it's a kind of bastardized. In those days, you had to be handpicked, and Coxsone got a chance to go overseas, particularly in that Florida area, to do some sugarcane cutting. And the money that he raised, because he wasn't exactly a slouch, family have a restaurant, so you can't call him broke neither, right? But he went on the program and it introduced him to the music at a deeper level back in the United States. And then he realized, because he also would have been getting orders from people to bring back records. And in addition to bringing back records for resale, he decided to come back when to send on money to build some speaker cabinets. And then he brought back equipment, records, and basically opened the door to him and Coxsone's downbeat sound system, right? Yes.
Yeah, basically, and all of that was financed by his mother. Because a lot of people love to they don't give his mother enough credit
right,
for being a major part of the development of the Studio One dynasty.
And also her business acumen.
Yeah, because she Coxsone learned a lot of the business side of things from. And so it was after that then the sound system started, and then it all started to blossom. Remember, they look Coxsone and the Euclid dances. They look at the dances as a business. It was definitely a business because they used to own the sound. They used to have the liquor, and they were the promoters of the dance.
So they're eating every pot that is on the fire. They are getting a taste out of each pot. They have a hand. Well, to take the conversation even further, because it's an interesting point you and Garth just raised about the business side of the thing. Now, while the sound system was taking life, if you will, right? Everybody was there. The Duke Reed was one among the early pioneers. You had Tom the Great Sebastian around the corner. Then you had what's his name from up
King Edward.
King Edward the Giant. Right. And you had Thunderbird at smaller sound come from Maxwell Avenue.
And then later on you had the Matador entering.
Right. Matador came a little later, but it was in the same time too. And so there was an industry being developed.
And don't talk about in Wellington Street. You had oh God, what's his name again? Jesus, I can't remember his name, but there was another popular sound run at Wellington Street.
But
Romy from Exodus is that's his son. But
but Wellington Street was also a location for one of those lawns. I think it's a Chocamo lawn, right?
Yeah.
So, and at that time, the sound system is playing purely foreign music until the a lot of things happening at the same time. The talent contest is producing all of this talent. These youths are realizing that this is a good way to put a voice out there. Stanley Motor is now recording, and so on. And then we know that
Stanley Motor started to record Mentor.
Right.
Stanley recorded
Mentor primarily,
Mentor.
Right.
Yeah.
But what it was doing, it was saying to the youngsters at the time, here's an opportunity to put your voice out. And around the same time now, Coxsone came in contact with what's his name, the Theophilus Beckford, who had done a little tune called Easy Snapping. And we're going to give a listen to Easy Snapping, because this is really, in terms of what pushed out commercial recording. There were other tunes, mind you, but we want to pay particular attention to this one. Let's give a listen. Easy Snapping, Theophilus Beckford.
I just let the song play out to the end, all full 3 minutes and 8 seconds, but
you were on a point. In fact, let me just make this point before we proceed further. We have too much material, and there's too much importance in the figurehead of a Coxsone to try to do this in one show. So we are going to concentrate our discussion, and we're going to continue the show next week as a part 2 of Coxsone. You in?
Yeah.
Because we can't truncate this presentation, and it's far too important. And some of the points, I don't want us to shorten the discussions either. But you were talking about walking through the back door and through the kitchen and all of that.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Because a lot of people forget the context under which Jamaica existed as a colonial, backward, and racist society, a divided society of white people with money versus black people with nothing, and black people who were not given an opportunity to thrive. And here comes 2 black men, and a couple of them, including Prince Buster and King Edward, who started to emerge as entrepreneurs in an area of a culture that was denigrated and looked down upon. However, he gave musicians the opportunity to earn, and most importantly, to become a somebody in the society, and entertainers got that opportunity to become somebody in a period when we were being sent to jail for ganja, when we were being beaten because you wear a Clark shoes, when you were beaten because your pants did short up and tight, when we were beaten because people had rasta, had dreadlocks. Remember when police used to regularly throw something in Rasta's eye and trim them and beat them regularly. This is what we used to, and this man comes and starts to tell musicians, hey, you are somebody, you'll get some playing at the dance hall and occasionally get some play on radio, and at an organized system where you get paid. I talk to people like from the Scatterlights and other musicians, and I ask them, after interviewing him and Coxsone interviewing them, and I said to them, tell me something. Lots of people say you used to rob on all of them stuff here, and he never wanted to give him any copyright. And he said, listen, when two persons in here talk about copyright, Tommy McCook and Coxsone, when Tommy McCook talk about copyright and royalties, Duke Reed make him tell him to nobody come back to the studio for a little while they was doing where there was at Catalan. So everybody shut up their mouth and leave that alone. When Coxsone tell them about, listen, you can get royalties and all them stuff, then you don't want that option. Lloyd Nip tell me I have it recorded. Tell me, sir. The man them say, no, sir, we don't know that in about. We don't want no money. We don't want no money down the line. We want our money now. And you cannot blame them because that was the only opportunity for them to earn.
You know, Doc,
them days the man have 10 and 15 baby mother.
Doc,
you understand?
Doc, in one of his interviews, Bonnie Striker Lee talked about Liquidator, Harry J. And what the guy named with the Liquidator?
Winston Wright.
Winston Wright. Now, when he brought the tune to Duke Reed or to Coxsone, I don't remember which producer it was. Yeah. Off the top of my head.
Oh, it was Harry J.
He paid for the song fair and square right there, and Bonnie Striker Lee said, listen, even if he paid the guy £20 for that song, that guy was very happy in that day. It's only later on when the song developed into what it was, then he realized the value of what he had. So, as you write, the immediacy of your moment, as you said, some of them have 5, 6 baby mother and 6 children more to feed. You're looking at the money right now. There's the movie Rockers. The movie Rockers. When the guy who ran the hotel that Horsemouth Wallace got kicked out of is a moment when and how he dealt with Horsemouth. If anybody ever go back and watch that movie, it's a very good synopsis of what used to go on in Jamaica in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, but they again.
Absolutely.
Well, hold on, Doc. Because I am with you in terms of this whole thing. Coxsone get some sticks that he didn't pay the artists. But again, as you said, it depends on whose story you're listening to. Because based on your conversation here and material that I have read and conversations that I have been participated in, that was not exactly the case. There were some, the argument of being exploited. It's an argument that holds value in today's environment where the industry has changed. But if you look back in the 1960s, when you talk to somebody, we played Delroy Wilson. Delroy Wilson was a nobody, right? Nobody. Yeah. In terms of, had it not been for the music, nobody would have heard about Delroy Wilson. It is not that the opportunity, because the same opportunities that were presented to a Toots, a Marley, they are an Alton Ellis. All of them, they were all growing up in a developing industry at the time. We made the point too that there wasn't any scholarship available for teach people about music and music business. So you were learning it on the trot. I believe that the man's contribution in terms of forming an industry, just the mere fact that in 1959, 1960, we weren't even independent yet. This was a white colonial rule little island. And so black people need to find a little corner and hold your space. In fact, you couldn't play none of that music that was being produced at that time could find its way on the airwaves. And it is through the instrumentality of people like a Coxsone and a Duke Reed that we eventually, they knew what the audience was because they had sound system. And I want us to focus as well on the value of the sound system, because the sound system was the marketing manager of the record business. It was the promotions manager. It was the proving point for a record. Coxsone is known for, if he records a tune or a couple of tunes on a particular day, his sounds are playing out almost every night of the week. And what he would do is take a dub plate and go to one of the dance, put it on the turntable, and watch the audience reaction, right? And that tells him the viability of the record, and in the later years the commercial viability of the material that he was putting out. So in fact the whole system of marketing, because even in today 2020, almost 2021, the sound system is still a significant component of the marketing and sale of records, right? And we have to remember that where we were then versus where we are now. Garth, all right. Now, Doc, we are at Coxsone has just now set up. This is the first half of the 1960s. Studio One is now open for business. Coxsone has hung out his shingle, and every Sunday. So, in fact, he structured auditions at the studio. It wasn't a case where you just turn up and they have an audition. That used to happen in the early part. And then they got to a point of establishing A&R, what you call artist, the identified, right. And then he had a music department which was headed by
Leroy Sibbles.
Leroy Sibbles was the talent man.
Come after.
Right. And then but what was happening is he basically set up the studio in such a way that you had the music department. So a lot of times the singers come and them have a tune, or them have lyrics they claim for a song, but them don't know anything else. So you go and the piano man bunks it out and try to find a melody or find a little rhythm, and then you structure the song into that.
Or he already has the song lyrics and the melody, so he sings it, and the guy finds the key, and then you bring in the other instruments.
This is where Coxsone was, and then you had a situation to where you had artists like the Wailers. The Wailers is a very important part of the development of Studio One. We don't make no go fool nobody about that, because while in terms of a structured group of youngsters, they make Duppy fool you. Because their story is the story certainly at that early age, Doc.
Inextricably tied to Studio One.
In that time when the Wailers were coming together, their story was no different from any of the talent that was coming in. What they did afterwards is what perhaps would have separated them from the pack. But they came to Coxsone through Joe Higgs, right? And Joe Higgs, Joe Higgs groomed them.
Either Joe Higgs or Seeker Party, one of them.
No, you're right. It is Seeker. No, Joe Higgs, Seeker Patterson made the connection with Coxsone, and so but Joe Higgs had been preparing this group of youngsters for a while, and Seeker said to Joe Higgs, "You need to record them," and he had the arrangement. He said he have a good relationship with Coxsone, who had just opened the studio, and so he took them down there, and they did a couple of songs. I think he said, according to Marley, they did 5 songs.
Listen, don't make an insight fool you. I don't agree that Wailers was really critical to the success of.
No, I'm not saying they were critical. I'm just saying the story of them. Hold on, their story, Doc, in my opinion, I'm not necessarily saying, because they left long before they were thing. But the story of how they came together is a story that was common to a lot of the other artists. We just never really studied the other artists in the way that the Wailers documentation story was documented. And so they came in.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example of the kind of relationship that Coxsone had with a lot of these people.
Hi there. If you enjoyed that clip, go on over to our website at yardmedia.com, where you can watch the entire broadcast at your leisure. And while you're there, why don't you check out our other reggae music features? And before you leave, pick up some of our Jamaican reggae merchandise, and hey, don't forget to tell your friends.